In Texas, justice didn't always wear a badge. Sometimes it carried a rifle and rode straight into danger. And in a place where the law was often outgunned, one family helped define what justice looked like. When you hear the name Frank Hammer, most people think of one thing: the man who helped bring down Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. But what if I told you that one of the most dangerous men to ever wear a Texas Ranger badge wasn't Frank? What if I told you his own brother captured one of the most notorious outlaws of the era, and history barely remembers his name? Today, we're changing that. Today, we're telling you the story of Harrison Hammer.
Whispers rise in the dead of night, secrets buried in the fading light. The truth's a storm, it will not stay. It crashes through like Judgment Day. Chains will break where shadows lie. The southern wind, it's a battle cry. Sisters of the South, hear the call. We rise together, we stand tall. SOS, the truth will ignite. Justice burns, a beacon of light.
Hey guys, I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Stephanie.
And we're Sisters of the South, back with another story for you today. But before we get started, we just want to remind everyone to please hit that like button if you like our video. Subscribe for more true crime content every week. And if you hit that little notification bell, it'll let you know when we're back with another story. And now, I'm going to let Stephanie continue with the story.
Let's do it. So now, unless you're a diehard Texas Ranger historian, you've probably never heard the name Harrison Hammer.
No.
We actually just discovered him ourselves, so we're very excited to bring you this story today. And that's exactly what makes this story so interesting. Because while Frank Hammer became a legend, Harrison was out there doing the same exact dangerous work that Frank Hammer was.
What an awesome family.
I know, right? Well, just wait, because I always have a caveat to my stories.
Of course.
So I'm excited to bring you the caveat, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So Harrison was out tracking criminals, taking down outlaws, and risking his own life with almost no recognition. And I feel so bad for Harrison because he did just as much as Frank Hammer did, his own brother, but just didn't get the recognition that I feel like he should have. And it's almost because he's younger than Frank is almost what I want to think in that case. Because, you know, it seems like, and not in all situations, but it seems like the older child always gets more recognition than the younger in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
right? Because they're the first to do everything. But in this case, Harrison was the first person to actually gain recognition somewhat, of course, not as big as Frank, in taking down some criminals. But bless his heart, he's out there doing the same thing Frank is, and he just doesn't gain the badge of honor that Frank did. But he is today. We're going to give that to him.
All right, let's go.
The Hammer name wasn't just respected in Texas, it was feared. 4 brothers, 4 Texas Rangers.
Oh my gosh.
But Harrison, he may have been the most overlooked of all of them.
Aw, poor Harrison.
Harrison Lester Hammer was born on August 15th, 1888 in Fairview, Texas, to Franklin and Lou Emma Hammer, along with 4 brothers. There was Clint, Dennis, also known as Estill, Frank, and Flavius. They also had a sister named Pat. All of the Hammer brothers became Texas Rangers except for Clint. There's the caveat.
Okay, well, what happened with Clint?
Well, I don't really know. I kind of looked up to see, hey, what did Clint do? And bless his heart, he didn't get any recognition of anything except his name attached to his Texas
I'm a
Ranger
hammer, I'll
brothers.
take it.
Right? I'm just going to ride the coattails, right? He probably just wanted to live a simple life. Maybe he was a farmer or something like that. But I don't really know what Clint was out there doing. But he probably enjoyed watching what his brothers was doing. And I'm sure that their mother was glad that at least one of them wasn't in law enforcement. Let's be honest, because that is definitely not for the faint of heart, that job. It's very dangerous, especially back then, probably even more so than it is now. So Harrison grew up in a world where survival meant learning really fast. You had to learn how to shoot, how to track, and how to stand your ground. And by the time he was just a boy, violence was already part of his life. At only 12 years old, Harrison and his brother Frank, which was 16 years old, was involved in a shootout with a neighboring farmer. So they started young.
Yeah.
Right? I guess finding justice or not putting up with any bull.
Well, and I feel like in that time, you kind of had to do that anyway, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, you had to carry a gun and
you kind of had
take
to
up
take
for
care
yourself. Anyway, take care of yourself.
of your own thing because there probably wasn't as many law enforcement in Fairview back then than there is now. So they just had to take care of their own business. So that's what they did. And I guess if you're good at it, let's just make it a career. And that's what these brothers did. So that kind of upbringing didn't just shape him, it hardened him. By 1918, at 30 years of age, Harrison officially joined the Texas Rangers, which just gives me chills. I think this is just so awesome. So he was following the footsteps of his older brothers. But unlike the legends that you hear about in movies, Harrison's career wasn't glamorous. He moved in and out of law enforcement, working wherever danger called. Mounted customs agent during Prohibition. He was a special ranger, a ranger detective, and if there was a crime in Texas, Harrison Hammer was somewhere in the middle of it. So, yeah, he
getting
definitely...
the job done.
He was out there getting it done.
No matter what it took.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, we're going to take a short break and give a little shout out to our favorite vendor and friends over at SoFly. SoFly! And here's a little video.
Hey guys, I wanted to come to you today about SoFly. SoFly is a family-owned business here in the Houston, Texas area, and they specialize in embroidery and engraving. So what they'll do is take your favorite accessories, such as a cap, a hoodie, a purse, a jacket, and they will specialize it to your needs. They have an array of different colors, and if you want your logo or your name or maybe even your initials, they'll put that on there for you. Also, they do engraving on things such as leather patches and also on carving boards. They do our merchandise. We know that you'll be happy, so try them at least once. But just to give you some idea of how badass they are, we're going to show you a video. So here we go.
All right, guys, we hope you enjoyed that video. Go check them out. Let them know we sent you. And if you buy something, let us know. We would love to see it.
Yep.
But on with the story.
Let's do it. So one case would prove just how skilled and underestimated Harrison really was. So the target was Jess Newton, one of the infamous Newton brothers, which we did a story on just a couple of episodes back. And they were very notorious. They weren't as famous as Bonnie and Clyde, and they didn't want to be. But they were very skilled at being bank robbers.
Well, and I think that's why Frank got the recognition because, Bonnie and Clyde were out there like the romantic.
It was a man and a woman that were in love.
Everyone's looking at the romance of it all and not the criminal side of it. And so he got the recognition for that, right? More because it was them.
Yes.
Than what he did, really.
Well, I really think that the public romanticized Bonnie and Clyde more than actually Bonnie and Clyde themselves because
Yeah.
there wasn't a whole lot of romance going on between the two of them. I think Bonnie was madly in love with Clyde, but Clyde just had so much trauma. So people romanticize
And they
that in their
still
own
do.
mind.
They still do.
And I take it back to, man, they were such hoodlums. Like, I was so sick of hearing about Bonnie and Clyde by the time I was done with
Yeah.
reading about them because I'm like, these people are hoodlums. They were up to no good. And all these people always want to put them up on a pedestal, and they absolutely don't deserve it.
Oh, they're in songs. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where these guys were like just robbing banks to get some money and
Just good old farmers trying
Yeah.
to make a living. And yeah, so I think the whole popularity of these stories it's actually backwards. I think that the Newton brothers need to be brought to the forefront more, and also the law enforcement that chased them, which is Harrison, needs to be brought to the forefront because you had to be really smart because the Newton gang were extremely smart in how they approached their their skill of robbing banks and trains. So you had to outsmart them. And Harrison brought that to the forefront. So, of course, one of the infamous Newton brothers, a gang responsible for some of the most daring train and bank robberies in North America. By this point, the Newton brothers had been on the run for years. Authorities believed that they were hiding out in Mexico, just across the Rio Grande. But Harrison had a theory. Outlaws might run, but they don't always stay away from what they love. And the Newton brothers, they loved rodeos. I think they loved horses because they were known to go to the Kentucky Derby. And, of course, you go to the rodeos, there's bulls and horses. And I think they just loved that environment. Of course, they're from Texas, and everybody thinks we ride horses over here.
we don't.
But we don't. We do love our horses and our cattle.
I love rodeos. I think they're a blast.
I do
but
too.
I'm not in one.
But no, but the Newton brothers, that was like their hangout. They didn't go to the bars. They went to the rodeos and Kentucky Derbies and things like that. So I think it's kind of intuitive of how smart that Harrison was, and just he probably watched them long enough to know,
he
hey,
knew them.
they're not going to change.
Mhm.
They're going to stick to what they love.
Right.
So on July the 4th in Del Rio, Texas, Harrison waited. He was watching in the crowd. He was blending in and being very patient and quiet. And then he saw him. He saw Jess Newton walking in like any other man, no idea having known that he was being hunted. I mean, Harrison's like, I got
Score.
you. I see you. There you are. So Harrison didn't rush. He was very patient. He didn't panic. I'm sure his heart was pounding. He's like, I knew it. I got these guys. I knew it. And there they are. Right? So he waited for the perfect moment. And when Jess stepped away from the crowd, Harrison made his move. No dramatic shootout or warnings, just a firm grip on the arm and the quiet realization that it was over for Jess.
That's awesome.
So Jess Newton, one of the most wanted outlaws, captured without a single shot fired. So Harrison just swoops in, grabs him by the arm.
Let's go.
Let's do this. Like, you should have known that this was coming. And I've outsmarted you, so here we go.
Yeah, but they got away with it for so long
Yes.
that he was probably like, what?
Yeah. And Harrison was patient with it. He's like, probably Harrison thought, let them think they've gotten away with it. Let them get comfortable in the environment again.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm going to swoop in and I'm going to get the job done. So Harrison wasn't done yet, though. He went back into the crowd and sent word to Jess's wife. And when she walked past him, he arrested her too. So it's like, I'm getting both. 2 for the price of 1 at one rodeo, right?
Why not?
All right, let's do this thing. So just like that, the chase ended. So it sounded like, he wanted to do it quietly. He didn't want to probably cause a scene at the rodeo and cause mass hysteria.
Yeah.
And someone get hurt. So I think that was the smartest way to do it.
I think it's very cool.
Isn't it cool? I think it's awesome.
He kept his
He kept his cool.
He handled business.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure Frank took some notes on how his brother did this. I'm sure that, and they probably bounce things off of each other.
I'm sure.
So if you've ever seen the movie The Newton Boys, you'd think that it was Frank Hammer who made that arrest, but that's not the truth. And I spoke about that in our last video about the Newton gang, that in the movie it depicts Frank Hammer arresting Jess. And when I did the research, unbeknownst to me, because I had done research on Frank and had never seen this about him, it was Harrison that did it. So, and so I just think that Harrison kind of got a raw deal on that.
He did, but I wonder if he's kind of the quiet one. Did it say much about his personality?
No, but Frank was kind of the quiet one as well. From just doing the research, he didn't want any recognition. So maybe that's just kind of the way the
way they
family
are.
was.
Yeah.
Right. They probably,
Because he even handled business in a quiet way.
Yes.
Like, I'm just here to get the job done. Let's do this.
right. Yeah. So I think it may just be like in their DNA to handle things quietly like that, which I absolutely admire.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's the best way to do things, especially in law enforcement, because you don't want to let everybody know your business because it gets out on the street really quick. So I think this was the best way to handle it. So throughout Harrison's career, he worked cases involving homicide, narcotics, bank robberies, and prohibition crimes. In one of the largest raids of its time, he destroyed over 2,500 gallons of illegal whiskey in Texas. And so I'm thinking, man,
That's a lot of whiskey.
that's a lot of whiskey, and he was probably really hated by a lot of people that wanted to drink that, right? They're like, man, this dude is a jackass. He's
no joke.
He's killing our vibe. Like, we need some relief over here.
And
he's-
Texans love their whiskey.
yeah, and he's dumping out thousands of gallons
my
of whiskey that
gosh.
someone put a lot of time and effort into making.
Yeah.
Right? But it was illegal. See, there was only black and white in the Hammer's mind. There was no gray area. So he did his job. He went and executed it. And there you go. No more whiskey, at least 2,500 gallons of it.
Right.
So he lived the life of a true lawman, obviously. So it was dangerous, unpredictable, and often it was deadly. But unlike his brother, he never became a legend, and it still blows my mind. But I think that doing my research, he's known. He's not as well known as Frank. But I did notice that there's some stories about Harrison. Not a lot of detail. That was another thing with, on documentaries and things. Frank had not gotten a lot of recognition other than just his name. No one really dug deep into his story. And it's the same with Harrison. That's why when we're doing research on these stories, I think we need to highlight that the people who caught the criminals, they need to be at the forefront and the light shined on them just as much as the criminal does. Because
they're the ones bringing justice to it all.
that's right. And that's what we're here for, is the justice, right? They're the reason why Bonnie and Clyde's name's out there for, whatever reason, or the Newton gang, because justice was sought and found for the victims. And so I think they deserve just as much, if not more, recognition than the criminals, for sure. And I think that they need to have a name, and they need to be recognized for when they were born, where they were born, and what kind of family they were raised in. What were their environment, So not in the public eye anyway did he ever get recognition of being a legend. Still, between the two brothers, there was no rivalry. And I love hearing that because, I dug a little bit of research, a little deeper into the research of the brothers, and D.E., or Still, was a ranger, and him and Frank Hammer were never close. There was some sort of rivalry there, although I couldn't find out what that was. They were never close. But Harrison and Frank were. And I think that's really awesome. And again, I think they probably bounced things off of them and talked about things, and they probably counseled one another going into situations like this because it's dangerous, and they probably took notes on when something happened, how they wanted to approach the next crime scene or whatever they were working on. They only had respect for one another. They remained close their entire lives.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's something that couldn't be said for all of the Hammer brothers. Harrison Hammer, a truly outstanding Texas Ranger, died on August 24th, 1977 in Houston, Texas. He is buried in Del Rio. He may be gone, but his story of true heroism goes on. So that's the end of that story, guys. But I think it's so awesome just to bring a little light. We love our Texas Rangers here. We absolutely do. And just learning about the infamous stories that you hear, the older infamous stories, and then knowing who's behind bringing justice. It just gives me chills to know that these awesome men was able to pass the torch to the Texas Rangers that we have today. And they are very respected here. It almost makes me want to tear up because they're so well respected and they handle themselves with such dignity. And I think that that's the torch that they carry from men like Harrison and Frank.
Well, yeah. And it's back then they were so hardcore.
Oh, yeah.
So, it is kind of fun to hear about their families because you've got these men out there, of course, all of them risked their lives, but it was so hard back then.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
They were obviously softer when they got home. You know what I mean? And that's kind of cool to hear about because you don't think about it.
Yeah, well, they were frontiering what we know today as the Texas Rangers, and they still wear their hats.
Yes.
And they still dress up impeccably. And so we just respect all of them, but we definitely respect the Hammer brothers. I am just so thrilled to know, though. I'm sad that they didn't all get along well, but I'm so thrilled to know that the Hammer family was so into the community and justice and law. And to me, that's just awesome.
I'd love to know more about their parents.
Yeah, I would too. There's not a whole lot out there on them, though.
So sad.
I wanted to find out more about Harrison's family. If he had a large family or whatever, and there's just not that much on Harrison.
Yeah.
But I wanted to create a video and documentation that, hey, Harrison deserves the legend badge as well. So, but he kind of does have that because he wore the Texas Ranger badge.
Yes.
But we wanted to bring him out there and share him with everyone because he deserves it.
That's right.
But yeah, guys, let us know what you think. If you would, after you hear the story, just share a little blue heart for Harrison and just as in remembrance of him and all the things that he brought to justice for Texas. So, but yes, until next time, guys, please remember
to see the good and stay imperfectly perfect. Bye, guys.
God bless.
Thank you.